The door swung open harder than he intended. The sound echoed through the silent mansion, sharp and wrong, and he froze with his hand still on the handle. His chest tightened instantly. He hated loud sounds, hated unexpected movement, hated anything that disrupted the order he had already calculated in his head. He stood there, counting his breaths under his breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. The hallway lights were on when they were supposed to be off. That alone made his jaw clench. Someone had broken routine. He stepped inside, shoes stopping precisely on the edge of the marble tile where the rug was not supposed to touch. His eyes scanned the corridor, already listing violations. The vase was angled slightly left. The air smelled faintly of detergent, stronger than usual. Someone had cleaned twice. He adjusted his cufflinks, forcing his hands to stop trembling. Then he saw the study door. It was open. That never happened. His pace slowed, each step deliberate, controlled, like he was walking into a room that might explode if he moved too fast. His heart beat harder, with every inch closer. His chair was inside that room. His chair was not to be touched, not leaned on, not dusted unless he supervised, not moved even a centimeter. He pushed the door wider and stopped breathing. She was there, the cleaner, curled into the leather of his chair like it belonged to her. Her shoes were off. Her head was tilted to the side, one arm draped over the armrest, sleeping deeply, the kind of sleep that came from exhaustion, not comfort. For a moment, he couldn't move. His mind screamed. The chair was contaminated. The air around it felt wrong. The symmetry of the room had collapsed. The world felt loud, too loud. His fingers curled into his palm so hard his nails bit skin. He didn't wake her. He couldn't. Instead, he stood there staring, his breathing shallow, his thoughts spiraling. That chair was where he had signed his first billion-dollar deal, where he sat every morning at exactly 6:30 a.m., where no one, not assistants, not guests, not investors, had ever been allowed to sit. It was the one place in the mansion that belonged entirely to him. And now she was in it, sleeping. He took one step back, then another. Then he closed the door slowly, like sealing something dangerous behind glass. He went to the bathroom and washed his hands. Once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th wash, his hands were red. By the 6th, they were shaking. He leaned over the sink, staring at his reflection. Billionaire, genius, control freak. That's what the media called him. None of them knew how fragile the world felt when something went wrong. None of them knew how loud his thoughts became. He dried his hands, folded the towel precisely, then unfolded it, and folded it again. It still didn't feel right. She broke the rules, he muttered to himself. But another thought crept in, quieter, more dangerous. She hadn't broken them maliciously. She hadn't even known. That unsettled him more. He waited. When she finally woke, it was to silence so complete it felt unreal. The study was empty. The lights were dimmed exactly to their evening setting. For a brief second, she thought she was dreaming. Then panic hit her all at once. She sat up so fast her head spun, her heart pounded. The chair creaked beneath her, and she froze, suddenly aware of where she was. "No, no, no," she whispered. She stood up immediately, smoothing her uniform with trembling hands. She hadn't meant to sleep. She had just closed her eyes. Just for a minute. The day had been long, longer than usual. Her body had betrayed her. She expected shouting, security, termination papers. Instead, the next morning, she was summoned. The message was polite. Too polite. Mr. Hale would like to see you at 9 a.m. Her stomach dropped. She arrived early. She always did. Sat on the edge of the chair across from his desk, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the floor. The room felt colder than usual. He entered exactly at 9. No greeting, no smile. He sat behind the desk, not in the chair. That alone made her throat tighten. "You slept in my chair," he said calmly. She swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean—" "You were asleep for 47 minutes. Her eyes widened before she could stop herself. He noticed. "I monitor my home," he continued, tone neutral. "You were exhausted." Tears burned behind her eyes. "I didn't mean any disrespect. Please, I'll do better. I'll work harder. I just—" "Sit," he said. She hesitated, then sat. "You could be fired," he said. She nodded quickly. "I understand. But you're not." Her head snapped up. He watched her carefully now, studying her like a variable he hadn't accounted for. "Tell me," he said, "how many hours do you sleep a night?" She blinked. 4, sometimes 5. "How many days off do you take?" "None." "How much are you paid?" She told him. His jaw tightened, not in anger, but calculation. "You broke my most important rule," he said, "but you didn't do it out of carelessness. You did it because your life lacks structure." She didn't know what to say. "I don't tolerate chaos," he continued, "but I fix problems." He slid a document across the desk. Her eyes dropped to it. A contract. "Live on the estate," he said. "You will be paid 3 times your current salary, meals provided, medical care, security." Her breath caught. "But," he added, "there are conditions." She looked up slowly. "No phone, no unapproved visitors, no leaving the grounds without permission." Her heart began to race. "This isn't punishment," he said. "It's protection. The world failed you. I won't." The room felt smaller. He leaned forward slightly. "I don't take freedom," he said softly. "I replace it with certainty." She stared at the paper, hands shaking. Outside that mansion was death, hunger, noise, fear. Inside was silence, order, safety, and a cage she didn't yet know how to see.
She signed the contract with a pen that felt heavier than it should have. The ink barely dried before he took it from her, straightened the pages, and slid them into a folder already labeled with her name. That alone unsettled her. He had planned this before she even sat down. "You'll move into the East Wing tonight," he said. "Your room is prepared." Her mouth opened, then closed. "Tonight?" "Yes. I need to tell my sister. She'll worry." He didn't look up. "I've already arranged a message. It says you've accepted a live-in position with extended hours. It's accurate." Her chest tightened. "But I didn't." "You don't need to explain," he said calmly. "Uncertainty causes stress. I remove it." That phrase again. She followed him through the halls in silence. Her footsteps echoed too loudly. She wondered if he noticed. She wondered if everything she did sounded loud to him. The room he gave her was clean. Too clean. The bed perfectly made. Clothes already hanging in the closet. Her size. Her color preferences. She didn't remember telling him those things. "There's a schedule on the desk," he said. "Follow it exactly." "What if I need something?" she asked quietly. "You won't." He left without saying goodbye. That first night, she didn't sleep. Every sound felt monitored. Every breath felt counted. The walls were thick, but the silence pressed in on her ears until it rang. In the morning, breakfast was waiting at exactly 6:45. Not a minute earlier. Not a minute later. He was already seated at the far end of the table, not eating. Watching. "You're 3 minutes late," he said. Her stomach dropped. "I'm sorry." Don't apologize," he said. "Correct." She nodded quickly and sat. Days passed. Then weeks. Her life became numbers. Times. Movements. Rules. Wake at 6 o'clock. Shower for exactly 8 minutes. Breakfast at 6:45. Cleaning from 7 to 11:30. Lunch at noon. Rest from 12:30 to 1 o'clock. Evening tasks until 7 o'clock. Lights out at 10 o'clock. At first, it felt easier. No choices, no uncertainty, no wondering how she'd survive the next month. He checked in daily. Did you sleep well? Yes, sir. Did you follow the schedule? Yes. Any discomfort? No. He seemed calmer when she said yes. When she once hesitated before answering, his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Hesitation suggests deviation, he said. There was none, she rushed. Good, he replied. Consistency keeps people safe. But small things began to weigh on her. The cameras. At first, she told herself they were for security. A billionaire needed protection. That made sense. Then she noticed how they followed her movement. How he referenced moments he couldn't have seen unless he was watching closely. You skipped 2 steps on the staircase yesterday, he said one evening. Her heart jumped. I didn't realize. Realization isn't required, he replied. Compliance is. One afternoon, she moved a vase while cleaning. Just slightly. A mistake. He appeared in the doorway minutes later. Why did you move that? I was dusting, she said, voice small. It was aligned, he said. I put it back. It wasn't the same. Silence stretched. I'll fix it, she whispered. He watched her hands shake as she adjusted it millimeter by millimeter. Stop, he said suddenly. She froze. You're anxious, he observed. That's counterproductive. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing, he snapped, sharper than before. Then he caught himself, took a breath, smoothed his sleeve. Fear creates disorder. She nodded, eyes burning. That night, she cried quietly into her pillow, biting down to keep the sound in. She didn't know why she felt guilty. She had food, safety, money she'd never seen before. So why did she feel like she was disappearing? One evening, as she cleared the table, she finally asked, May I have my phone back? Just sometimes. He didn't answer immediately. That was worse. When you're ready, he said, you can earn privileges. How? By proving you won't misuse them. Her voice trembled. I've done everything right. Yes, he said. And you're calmer now. She wasn't. She wanted to say that. Wanted to scream it. But she nodded instead. Later, alone in her room, she noticed something new. The door didn't lock from the inside. She tested it gently. Nothing. Her heart began to race. She tried to tell herself she was safe. He wasn't cruel. He didn't yell. He didn't hit. He gave her everything she needed. But freedom wasn't something he listed under necessities. Weeks later, she broke a rule on purpose. She sat in a chair that wasn't assigned to her. Just for a moment. Just to feel what would happen. Her pulse pounded as she waited. It took 6 minutes. Then his voice came through the speaker in the corner of the room. That chair isn't scheduled for you. Her blood went cold. I was just resting, she said. Stand up, he said. She did. There was a pause. Why did you do that? He asked, quieter now. She swallowed. Because I wanted to choose. Another pause. Longer. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Not angry. Unsettled. Choice, he said slowly, is what ruins people. That night, she realized something terrifying. He wasn't watching her to protect her. He was watching her because losing control scared him more than losing her ever would. And for the first time since signing that contract, she stopped thinking about surviving inside the mansion and started thinking about getting out. If you're still watching at this point, pause for a second. Stories like this aren't just fiction. They're reflections of control, power, and silence. Hit like if you feel the tension. Subscribe if you want stories that go where others won't. And stay, because what comes next is where everything breaks. She started hiding small rebellions inside obedience. Nothing obvious. Nothing dramatic. She followed the schedule exactly, but she slowed her breathing on purpose. She took 1 extra second before turning corners. She hummed quietly while cleaning, a sound so soft it barely existed, but it was hers. He noticed everything. You altered your pace today, he said during dinner. Her fork paused midair. I didn't mean to. I know, he replied. That's what concerns me. She forced herself to keep eating. He leaned back slightly, studying her face. Do you feel trapped? The question hit her like a slap. No, she said quickly. Too quickly. He nodded once, satisfied. Good. But that night, she stopped biting back her tears. She cried openly. Hard. Silent sobs shaking her chest. She didn't care if the cameras saw. Let him see. Let him understand what his order was costing. The next morning, he was different. Softer. He brought her tea himself. Set it down carefully, aligning the cup with the edge of the table. You were distressed, he said. Her eyes flicked up. You were watching. Of course, he replied. I monitor anomalies. I'm not an anomaly, she said before she could stop herself. The air changed instantly. He stared at her. Really stared. You are, he said finally. Because you disrupt my system. Her heart pounded. Then let me go. Silence stretched, so long it felt heavy. No, he said quietly. You're safer here. Safe for who? She asked, voice shaking. His jaw clenched. He stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor, a sound so harsh he flinched at it himself. Return to your schedule, he said. She obeyed. But something had shifted. He began appearing more often, standing in doorways, asking questions that had nothing to do with work. What were you thinking just now? Why did you pause before answering? Do you ever think about leaving? She learned quickly that honesty frightened him. So she lied. No, never. The lies tasted bitter, but they kept her breathing. Until the day she touched the chair again. Not the first chair. His chair. She hadn't planned it. That was the scariest part. Her body moved before her mind could stop it. The study was empty. The chair sat there, untouched, pristine, waiting like a test. She lowered herself into it slowly. The leather was cold. Her heart slammed against her ribs. For a split second, she felt powerful. Then the door slammed open. He stood there, chest rising and falling rapidly. His eyes locked onto her like she'd committed an unforgivable sin. Get up, he said. She didn't. I said get up. Her voice trembled, but she spoke. Why does this chair matter more than me? His face twisted, not with anger, but panic. Because this chair doesn't betray me, he snapped. The words hung in the air, ugly and exposed. She stood slowly. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't, he said. You disrupted me. He paced the room, running a hand through his hair repeatedly, a break in his usual control. You don't understand what disorder does to me. She watched him carefully now, not as an authority, as a man unraveling. Then why do you keep creating it? She asked softly. He stopped pacing. What? You say chaos ruins people, she continued. But you're the one creating it. You trapped me here because you were scared. His breathing grew shallow. I saved you, he said. You saved yourself, she replied. Something cracked. His voice dropped. The world is unpredictable. People leave. They fail. They disappoint. So you took my freedom instead. I gave you structure. You gave me a cage. He looked at her then, not as a problem, not as a system, but as a person who saw him. And that terrified him. The next day, her privileges were reduced. No more walking in the garden. No more unscheduled time. Her door now locked from the outside at night. She tested it once. It didn't budge. Panic surged through her chest like fire. She banged softly, then harder, then stopped, terrified of what he might do if he heard. She sat on the floor until dawn, knees pulled to her chest, shaking. In the morning, he acted like nothing had changed. You slept poorly, he observed. Yes, she said flatly. He frowned. That's inefficient. She laughed. A sharp, broken sound that surprised even her. I'm not a machine, she said. No matter how much you want me to be. His hands trembled. Why are you doing this? He asked. Why won't you just follow the rules? Because they're killing me, she whispered. He stared at her, eyes glassy. Rules are the only reason I'm alive. That was the moment she understood. He wasn't trying to own her. He was trying to survive her. Her unpredictability. Her humanity. Her refusal to be perfectly controlled. It reminded him of everything he couldn't fix inside himself. That night, she made a decision. She wouldn't fight him head on. She would wait. She began pretending again, smiling, complying, thanking him. You're doing well, he said one evening, relief clear in his voice. Thank you, she replied, eyes lowered. But inside, she was counting. Camera blind spots, door timings, his routines. If he lived by patterns, then patterns could be broken. She waited 3 days before making her move. 3 days of perfect behavior. She followed the schedule to the second. Ate every meal. Spoke only when spoken to. Thanked him for things that hurt to be grateful for. He relaxed visibly. His shoulders dropped. His breathing steadied. The mansion felt quieter. Predictable. On the 4th night, he made the mistake of believing she was fixed. He retired to his study at 9:30 p.m., exactly as he always did. Sat in the chair. Adjusted the lamp. Reviewed reports. He trusted routine the way some people trusted prayer. She waited until 10:12. That was when he always stood to wash his hands. 10 minutes. No deviation. She moved silently through the corridor, heart pounding so hard She was sure the cameras could hear it. She wore the soft shoes she'd started using weeks ago, not for comfort, but because they made no sound. The service hallway camera had a 3-second delay when it switched feeds. She counted. 1, 2, 3. She slipped past it. The door to the outside wasn't locked the way she'd feared. He hadn't needed to lock it. He'd convinced himself she wouldn't dare. Her fingers closed around the handle. Behind her, a voice cracked through the silence. "Where do you think you're going?" She froze. He stood at the end of the hall, eyes wide, breathing fast. Not composed, not calm, stripped of his usual control. Back inside, he said, "Now." She turned slowly. "I can't," she said. "You signed a contract," he snapped. "You agreed." "I agreed because I was scared," she replied. "And so were you." He took a step closer. "You don't understand what happens when things fall apart." "I do," she said. "I live it every day in here." His hands shook violently now. "If you leave, everything breaks." "That's not my responsibility," she said softly. "You'll get hurt," he insisted. "The world will chew you up." "Maybe," she said, "but at least it'll be my life." He lunged, not to grab her, but to block the door. His foot slipped slightly on the polished floor. The imperfection startled him so badly he stumbled. She didn't wait. She pushed past him and ran. The cold night air hit her like a shock. Gravel bit into her feet. The gate loomed ahead, taller than she remembered. Behind her, he shouted her name. Not angrily, desperately. She reached the gate and slammed her hand against the emergency release. An alarm blared, piercing and chaotic. He screamed then, a raw sound of panic, hands clamped over his ears as if the noise physically hurt him. She hesitated for half a second. Looked back. He was on his knees, rocking. The man who controlled everything reduced to fragments by unpredictability. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then the gate opened. She ran. By morning, the story was everywhere. Not the contract, not the money, the cameras, the recordings. She hadn't planned that part. But once she was free, once she felt air that didn't belong to him, she talked. To a lawyer. To a journalist who listened instead of doubting. The footage didn't lie. The billionaire retreated from public view almost overnight. His board demanded explanations. Investors panicked. His routines collapsed under scrutiny. They called it a scandal. She called it breathing again. Weeks later, she sat in a small apartment that smelled like coffee and sunlight. The place was messy. Shoes by the door. Dishes in the sink. It was perfect. Her phone buzzed with a message she didn't expect. From him. Just 3 words. "I lost control." She stared at the screen for a long time, then typed back. "So did I." She blocked the number. Across the city, he sat alone in the chair that no longer felt safe. The leather still bore the faint impression of someone else. Someone real. Someone who reminded him that control could never replace connection, and obsession could never replace freedom. And for the first time in his life, the silence didn't calm him. It terrified him. If you made it to the end of this story, don't just scroll away. Stories like this exist because silence lets control grow. Like this video if it made you feel something. Comment if it reminded you of someone or yourself. Subscribe if you want stories that don't flinch from uncomfortable truth. Because sometimes, the scariest cages are the ones disguised as care.